Hi, we can't hear you on the Zoom. Thank you.
Uh, okay, Amy, can you hear us now? Oh, okay. Well then, so what we just said was a lot of things.
We can hear. Thank you.
Okay. Oh, was I? Okay. So, oh, is it your computer? Your volume on? Okay. Well then, it might be. I'll sit back here. That's right. So what we said and nobody heard was thank you everybody for coming to our meeting tonight. Our officers are here up front. We had an announcement that Chief Hall, who's been helping us here at the fire department with our meetings, is retiring, and Chris is going to be stepping up. So that was big news tonight. We're glad to hear that, and we thank the fire department for the support, community support, which they've been very vigilant about over the years. So we've adopted our meeting agenda. We're asking for public comment for matters that are not on our agenda tonight. So if there's something on our agenda that you want to talk about, we ask you to hold on to your comments till we get there. But if there are any public comments right now, we ask the room, there were none. And then now I see Dean's hand is up. Let me see. There we go. Dean, you should be able to go.
Good evening. Um, I just wanted to point out that the county's process for land use applications includes an attestation of sorts by the applicant identifying whether or not they've provided any campaign contributions to county supervisors. What has been uncovered of late is that developers have funneled money through the chambers of commerce in El Dorado County to campaigns of county supervisors. And there is significant evidence, I believe, that the board majority has gotten money from time to time through that apparatus, even though the applicants have signed that they're not making campaign contributions to those in the land use decision-making process, i.e. the supervisors, which violates, I believe, the Levine Act. I just wanted the APAC committee to understand when they go through all these machinations and end up with something other than what the supervisors decide, that there may be more to this picture than meets the eye. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Dean. So are there any more public comments online? I see no more hands up. All right, so we'll bring it back up here. And our next opportunity, as we begin our meetings, is supervisor communications. I know Supervisor Ferrero is here tonight. We do ask you to step up that microphone and, yep.
Good evening, everybody. I see some new faces in here. My name is Greg Ferrero. I'm a District 1 Supervisor for the county. And thank you all again for allowing me to speak. I typically, every month I come and just kind of go over what we've been dealing with at the county over the previous month. I will start with Saratoga Road, which is
They're hearing me.
for this group. I was able to pull the accident.
Oh, I just said that, the idea that they're funneling money through the chamber, the board majority, that the applicants sign that they aren't, and it goes through the chamber. And I said, they do all of this work only to have it decided differently. I said, there might be more to.
Yeah, Saratoga Road. So we pulled the accident statistics over the last couple of years. In 2024, and I'm talking about Saratoga and Finder specifically, not all of Saratoga. Saratoga and Finders, there was 4 accidents in 2024 that were actually investigated. and 3 that were reported, but were either unable to locate by CHP or the parties exchanged information. And in 2000, and then since January of 2025 up until last month, there were 2 collisions that were investigated and 1 reported that was, I think it was unable to locate. Now, we know there's more because just a few months ago, someone drove through the fence, and that wasn't on the call log. So someone drove through the fence, and it never got called in. So, anyways, DOT. I know Brooke sent an email to us last month. I met with Raphael, head of DOT, today. He's going to actually respond to her. They're going to come up with some immediate remedies, hopefully, over the next month or 2. And probably have to do a signing, maybe restriping. We're not going to put a stop sign there, and we're not going to widen it, but we are going to address it and hope it reduces the number of accidents. Well, so most of the accidents are rear enders. So if we put a stop sign there without putting a left turn pocket on the finders, you're going to have more accidents. And so that's the reason. I mean, maybe if the road was widened and a turn pocket was put in, but to just put a stop sign in now at that intersection, I don't think that would be safe, because cars are coming over that hump and the visibility is reduced because they can't see over it, and we'll just have more cars stop there if there's a stop sign. Raphael did point out that there's a lot of intersections in this county with a higher accident picture. This is not an isolated area. That's all I have for that, unless there's any questions. Well, I think what they're thinking of is, and I don't want to overspeak, but I think what they're thinking of is possibly even putting like rumble strips in the road before that intersection, before the hump, and flashing like beacon lights that there's stop traffic ahead possibly. So we'll see how that goes. I think those are the ideas. Yeah, I think those are the ideas now. There were complaints also a couple months ago about big rigs parking there. Has that been remedied? It should have been. Okay. I know I think looking at the call logs, like I don't know if I was supposed to be privy to this, but they did issue a citation to, I think, a car carrier that was parked there. Okay, was it? Okay. All right. All right, moving on. Creekside development was approved down south of the business park. 763 homes, mostly age restricted. I don't know if you guys have been paying attention or following. There's kind of a condemned home at 3369 Patterson up the hill up here, and it is been abandoned. It's a nuisance. Kids are going in there partying. There's been campfires in the actual house. It's all sprayed graffiti. The windows all broken out of it. Anyways, good news. It's now for sale. We had it all boarded up months ago and fenced off. There's a pool back there also. Hasn't been maintained in years. So, anyways, we just approved a lien on the property, kind of recouped the money that we spent dealing with it, and I just received an email today that it's in a trust, and I believe it is for sale. Want a good deal on a house that you need to bulldoze. It's a nice lot up there. Moni Gilmore Center. We spoke last year about us exploring the possibility of selling it to CSD. That's been taken off the table now, so we're going to hang on to it, maintain it as is. We need to renegotiate the lease with CSD, and that's work on. Costco draft EIRs out. You guys, I'm sure you're all here. Last Monday, Costco hosted a meeting at Oak Meadow School in partnership with the Buckeye Union School District regarding the, well, it's more of an information meeting for the DR, but addressing, concerns of the school parents. And then there is a public meeting at the Cameron Park CSD, thank you very much, on February 25th at 6 p.m. That will do the same thing. We'll have stations with all of the different traffic experts, tribal experts, environmental impact experts, water experts, and they'll all be there. And so the public can go in, ask questions, and gather more information so they can submit a written response to the EIR, which I believe closes March 23rd. Yeah. Yesterday, we just passed an ordinance prohibiting unlawful fires on public and private land. And unbeknownst to me, the sheriff's department or any law enforcement can't enforce the same fire codes as the fire department can. The sheriff's department is like hot. The homeless outreach team is going to fires that, up against buildings or on public land, and they can't enforce it. So we just enacted a ordinance to allow them. It's a misdemeanor to have a fire that's unauthorized, and it's not gonna. There was public comment concerning, is it gonna affect controlled burns or debris burning when you're burning your vegetation at your house, and totally separate thing. Glassy wing sharpshooter. Anyone live in Serrano? It's spreading, and it's a problem. You don't know what it is. It's a tiny little bug, and it's invasive, and once it gets in it's a big threat to the wine region, and it causes what's called Pierce disease in grapevines, which is there's no cure for it. And so there's a huge infestation in Serrano. The county ag department has been working with California ag, and California keeps granting us, I think we're up to like $4 million so far, to eradicate it, because each plant has to be treated individually, and basically every plant in Serrano that's planted is a host. All of the crepe myrtles, everything in there, everything that's green is a problem. So the challenge has been we just can't go on people's property to spray yet. So we're trying to get voluntary compliance, and as of last month, we've contacted 3,500 homeowners. 2,000 of them haven't responded yet. So it's spreading. As of last month, there was a few findings down south of the freeway, and so the county and the state's trying to do everything to stop it before it gets up the hill into our wine region. You know anybody that has that's apprehensive about letting the county treat, twist their arm. It's kind of important. We don't want to get to the point where we have to, I don't know what the word is, but use our authority to do it without permission of the homeowners. Something.
Fruit fly?
It was a fruit fly.
Yeah.
Cars or cover your cars, because they're going to start spraying at 6 o'clock at night, and stay inside. And so we all did, and it actually worked.
I remember that. I just started with the CHP in 1988, specifically in Orange County. And I remember at night there'd be a convoy of helicopters flying over.
Yeah.
And I guess spraying. I don't think I'd go over too well now.
Yeah.
Probably not.
It worked. It did work.
My
Yeah. We're having trouble getting on people's property, let alone
knocking on the door and asking.
waiting for
Yeah.
helicopters.
I remember BT Collins famously drank malathion from a cup. And I knew BT, I was a kid, but yeah, that was a big deal to get in, but they just sprayed. So everybody got the warning, so do what you're going to do. But yeah, it's citrus and crepe myrtle. It's a big deal. and we're ripe for it right out here.
Yeah, I mean, the cold weather is helping. The weather we've had for the last month is not, so, but like freezing temperatures really slows it down, so. Hopefully. I know, I think Solano County and Knapp County, they've been dealing this for about 5 years. And luckily the state is, if they didn't, it'd be uncontrollable. Anybody pilots fly out of Glassville or Georgetown Airport? We did the leases for them. E-bikes. You guys see, e-bikes or e-motorcycles drive around town. We had a meeting today with the sheriff from CHP. It is a huge problem. I mean, it's a huge problem statewide. I see it around here. And CHP is actually getting in pursuits. I have a video that was from a CHP dash cam. It was started in the customs of Toronto. There had to be 10 to 15 of these bikes, and he's chasing them for like 5 minutes. And one finally crashed, and he got him, a 13-year-old kid. But they are, the e-motorcycles are legal to operate for anybody on the road. And then there's 3 classes of e-bikes, and most of the ones you see on a bike trail and stuff are legal, but if it's over 750 watts, which means it goes over 25 miles an hour, 30 miles an hour, they're illegal. And so parents are buying these things for their kids, and it's a big problem. I know the fire department has responded to major injury accidents. There's been multiple pursuits. The sheriffs and CHP did like a strike force a month or 2 ago down at Town Center. They wrote a bunch of citations. And so today there was a meeting and trying to figure out ways to combat this without going in being heavy-handed. And the common thing is like if they're chasing them, someone crashes and gets hurt, the blame is going to be on the law enforcement, unfortunately. But they're trying to work with the schools and attend public meetings like this to educate parents that these things that they're buying for thousands of dollars for their kids are actually illegal. That is all I have. Anybody have any questions?
Are full and they come from somewhere down the path and not to this. Why is it down the path?
So some are, some aren't. Yeah, some are. They have to, I mean, in order for a golf cart, and I'm trying to going off my memory, in order for a golf cart to be legal on a public road, it has to meet the same requirements as your car. Turn signals, headlights, brake lights, seat belts, license plates. And so those all need to be, it's the same laws apply. Now, in private gates like Serrano, exemptions. But yeah, if it doesn't have that equipment,
So, go ahead.
I have a comment. The latest approval of Creekside brought something to mind. When I first moved here to El Dorado Hills, I moved in because there was a 55 and over Four Seasons, and that was the first one. And at that time, there were no public services in this county. Bus, you had a very limited El Dorado Hills Senior Center, very, very few amenities for seniors. And now, over the 20 years, you have Heritage 1, Heritage 2, Heritage 3, Creekside, and you have all of these seniors, and yet there are no public service facilities for seniors in this county. So I'm saying that when these things are approved, you should really think about the people who are going to be living in these communities, and you have to offer them. You know, you're inviting them here, like people said, who invited wrestling? Well, I'm here. Now you got to take care of me. Okay. So I just want to make that comment. You know, it's like and I'm going to get off this right away. It's like California looking to get a mileage tax because they realized after promoting electric cars, no one's buying gas and paying taxes. You have to look down the road to see what you're doing, you know.
We are inviting that. I don't think it's any secret, in my opinion, of additional age-restricted housing. I would prefer not to. I would prefer Creekside to be open to everybody. But due to the schools, their hands are tied, and they're balancing. Do we want to build homes, or do we want to go through this with the warehouse again? That was.
You know, I realize it's money for the county. I realize that the developers like it because they get approval and they can build more homes on that land, but it has to be kept in mind, you know.
Can't speak for the farmer, but I'm guessing their amount of services go up with these interesting.
With all the seniors falling, you guys got to pick them up.
Yeah.
All right, thank you, Greg.
I don't want to build any more. The schools are under-enrolled, all of them but Latrobe. So, for me, that was I had trouble with, I supported that, but because I just think it was the best alternative given the perfect. And I think Wynn would approve, I know they would have rather built
Yeah.
houses that were available to everyone.
We've had that conversation with them since like 2017 or 18. So yeah, we're not spoiling anything. That's on our agenda, just to note that the board approved that project. So are there any more questions for Supervisor Ferrero? I don't see any more hands up online. Huh? Now you can take the rest of the night off.
Thank you.
Go home.
Huh.
Good, safe night.
Thank you.
All right, take care.
Okay, moving along. Do you want to?
Bob wants to.
Oh, Bob, do you have anything for District 2 or nothing prepared?
Nothing in particular, no.
Okay. All right. So we have no.
And
Oh, please do if you have some.
in general, back to APAC, looking at the planning commission's calendar coming up, I think you have to be prepared now for a very busy summer. Without our tentative calendar has been made available to us. Again, it's tentative. But because Creekside was approved, which is the first specific plan in 30 years to have been approved, and I'm sorry that the supervisor was not here to hear me, but perhaps this can get back to him, that what was temporarily taken off our calendar has suddenly been put back on our calendar in terms of when Marble Valley, Lime Rock, and Costco and Gateway will appear on our calendars. And right now, we're looking at this entire summer, back to back. I can't imagine how the commission is going to handle that kind of volume of information. I certainly don't know how a fine organization such as yours can do an adequate job of evaluating all those in an adequate fashion and actually represent the needs and the impact of people in that fashion. So to the degree that APAC can start, I'm using the word thin pressure on powers to be, to spread these things out a little bit. It is mind-boggling to me that we'll have 3 to 4 transformative additional items come forth this year if the county staff is allowed to go ahead and move this thing forward. We as a planning commission are not able to maintain and manage our own agenda at this stage. The only people that can put pressure on the supervisors is you. And if you want to actually have a voice, this is the time to exercise your voice. So please do, because this summer will change Dorado Hills forever. And for those who may be looking at cityhood coming up. Right now, the advent of another Pacific plan, the folks trying to deal with cityhood will not only have to deal with the previous six Pacific plans to integrate, but now a seventh, and now there could be eighth, ninth, and 10th. And so the impacts over the next few months are going to be very telling. So as an organization, I would really encourage APAC to reach out to everybody and start putting pressure on the power to be to look at this thing in a rational fashion. Thank you.
Right.
Yes.
You said 3 specific plans. I know Marble Valley and Lime Rock. Is Gateway a specific plan?
Yeah.
It is.
Gateway Pacific plan.
Okay.
Our school was not,
Yeah.
but it might as well in terms of the school. So.
Thank you, Bob.
I have a question for the board. Do you think it would be appropriate at this time to maybe make a motion where we would send some kind of request to the board, to the supervisors, that they spread out these plans, make them a little, make the space in between each one a little longer so that we would have time to study them, you know, and to have the planning commission study them.
I think that's reasonable. I know that, and Bob's aware, you know, we attempted to do that in 2024 when all these plans became available and they all wanted to be approved by December of 2024. And so the reality of that was that was absurd, but that was the intent. And we did ask, and we asked the planning department, because as Bob in his role as the planning commissioner of District 2 has just reminded us, is that they don't set their own agenda. The agenda is set, but at the Board of Supervisors, they do help plan their agenda. So, yeah, do we want to, I'm trying to think, if we don't have it on the agenda, can we do a motion? Yeah.
Can we actually then vote on something that would say that
Want to make a motion to propose something?
yes, I want to make a motion now that APAC sends some kind of communication to the supervisors that they spread out the study and the, I don't know what other word we want to use.
Process.
Approval process, thank you, of these 3 huge plans that are coming now. Huh?
I would agree with that, but add planning into that.
All right, planning commission and planning, but they, from what we just heard tonight, they don't have that much control over it anyway. It would be the supervisors, I believe, that would have to get that, so that they would put some pressure on planning.
And again, it comes down to a question, the supervisors have a little more control of their agenda than the planning commission doesn't really have control of their agenda. But I don't know that supervisors can direct staff specifically to take specific actions unless it's an agendized CAO, yeah. So that's probably when we craft this letter, we have to, that's our approach, right? We have to say, hey,
Take a vote on that now. Let's make sure we send it. Okay. Tim?
What are the intent for these projects to, and what stage are they going to be? I mean, obviously Costco is going to be a draft, so that's going to be important, but the other, 2 of the other projects at least, we've already done the drafts. We're going to be getting, I assume, the finals, that's what's coming up. And then if there's a final EIR, then we know that there's a definite time frame because it will be going to the planning commission and then to the board. So I'd like to, do we have a sense of when this crunch is going to occur? Is it July and August? Is it spread out over 4 months?
Don't you think we should have something in between each one? That's what I'm thinking, maybe 30 days in between each one. All right, so that we spread it out and we have time to. Well, let's not say what they're aiming for. Let's help them aim for.
So,
And it's good or bad, you know, I'm not saying it could go both ways. It could be the best project in the world. But I don't know that right now, nor does anybody else concerned. So we need to have time to look at it. Hey, John?
oh, I'm sorry. I was looking at the hands go up. And the thing with the final EIR is that it's a very compressed time frame. You know, with the draft, we get up to 60 days. With the final, it's just a couple weeks. It's not.
Basically,
Yeah, it's posted on. It'd be on the planning commission agenda first, and then about yeah. So, and then really the final, you can make comments on it, but it's really a matter of when you guys are looking at it and deliberating whether you are going to. Oh, sorry. Like a lounge singer with the microphone. But you guys have to. You get it the most compressed because it's out and it's at the planning commission. I would hope the board of supervisors are looking at it the same time that you're getting it. The reality is that they're looking a little wider picture than you guys are. You're very focused on what's in front of you. So, and as residents, we have the same amount of time as you. So, yeah. So stuff. So we have some hands going up. What?
Sorry, I just had a move my leg.
Oh, sorry. So Joel's had his hand up, and I'm going to go ahead and ask Joel. If I can, there we go. There you go. Sorry, Joel, that took forever. You should be able to unmute. Try it one more time.
Okay, can you hear me?
Perfectly. Thank you, Joel.
Oh, I'm glad you can hear me. I couldn't hear anything that Supervisor Ferraro said, and very little of anything after that. Could you people please try to speak into a microphone? That's all I've got.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Joel.
We still have that motion. in
Yes, I
front of the
wanted to see if
board.
there was any comment about it.
I don't.
Joel's a voting member.
It's for us, the board. It's
Yeah,
for us
okay.
to vote on it.
Okay.
Not for them to.
So yeah, we wanted to take public. Well, we wanted our members to put their hand up. So the other members have their hand up right now. So we have a motion. Those in favor. Aye. So that's 4. So we're good. We will craft that and circulate it among officers to get the final sign off and sent in yesterday. No. So we do have another person to hand up. So Rich, you should be able to unmute.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you, Rich.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'll just make this very brief. I'll just echo the comment from the person just previously to this. This is my first time attending remotely, and I don't know how many microphones you have, but there was large portions of it that I really couldn't hear anything. I had my speakers maxed out when Supervisor Turnbull was speaking and could barely make him out, but there was other speakers that nothing came through. So it would be helpful.
Thank you, Rich, for pointing out. Yeah, we're gonna have Chief Hall speaking to that mic.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
I don't hear it on the.
Rich, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Oh, you can?
Now I can, yes.
Okay. Yeah, so when we have people come up to the podium, we'll ask them to.
Rich, can you hear me on this one as well?
Yes, I can now. Thank you. That's good.
All right. Well, thank you guys for pointing that out for us, because obviously we're in the room and we can hear it, and it's tough to, if we turn a speaker on inside here, we'll get a lot of feedback. So we got one more hand up. Ivan,
Hi.
there you go.
Thank you. I wanted to thank you guys for having this open for us, like online, for those of us who can't make it. And yeah, I just want to echo that second microphone that I think his name was Rich, was it? That was louder than the first one. The first one was kind of quiet. But again, thank you so much for having this for us.
Right. Thank you. Okay. So we did that.
Should we turn on chat so we can get
I have to set it up before the meeting gets on.
Okay.
So we will move ahead then to the next item. We have no guests. So we're going to be talking about projects. If you want to go ahead and jump ahead, we're going to be quick with the first ones because Supervisor Ferraro did share, we just want to make sure people knew what has transpired with projects. If you want to jump ahead. So we always, we've started talking about the projects that we're still looking at and putting them up in front so that you guys don't miss them at the end of the meeting. We've talked about the Village of Marble Valley specific plan and Lime Rock Village specific plan. The expectation is that those final EIRs are going to be, it's sounding like spring, summer. To be determined, we're going to learn more, but we expect those, and those projects have been before us for a while. Town and Country Village, the project was sent back to the Planning Commission for additional review and analysis, and I missed a call on that from the applicants the other day, and I'm waiting to hear back from them and see where they're at. Creekside Village specific plan, the Planning Commission recommended denial. Board of Supervisors had their hearing in January, and they approved the project, and we'll have a little mention of that next. The Costco draft EIR we're going to talk about tonight. That was just what we expected in early 2026. It came out last month. We'll be talking about the timelines for public comments on the draft as we end the meeting tonight. Generations at Green Valley, we've had the draft EIR published, and it was over a year ago. I've had no updates from the applicant, so don't know what's going on with that. Is it me? Some flashing lights. So that was Generations at Green Valley. And then the last one on our list that we've been watching is the Gateway Eldorado specific plan project, and we're going to talk about that next. You can go ahead and jump ahead. There's a public scoping meeting. Well, it'll be after this. You're fine. There's a public scoping meeting that was held last week, and we'll talk about that a little bit in another slide. So the next agenda item here is the Heritage Village 11, the request from Lennar to modify a condition of approval for the extension of Royal Oaks Drive over from Latrobe into their project. And they also had a condition of approval to install a traffic signal there at that new intersection. So that had been rescheduled for the board on February 3rd. They had that meeting last week, if you want to jump ahead. So that's just roughly what we're talking about here. And the black and white drawing is where the anticipated alignment of that road would be. It's going to extend Royal Oak across and then connect to Heritage 11. And they originally had their condition of approval was that they had to have the intersection. The triggers for this project was the 333rd building permit trigger, and they're very close to it now. However, they have Lennar has said that they had difficulties securing the permit, specifically with Fish and Game, if I'm remembering correctly. Was that one of them? It was environmental, it was Fish and Game. So, and then the lead time for getting the signal equipment constructed, their custom signal poles for the intersection. So if you want to jump ahead, we'll just talk, but we talked about this a little bit last month, but basically they're asking for a change in that condition of approval for those two triggers to extend it out potentially up to 2 years. We sent a comment letter in. Our concern was that we seem to have a lot of conditions of approval that when they're granted, yay, they got their entitlements and their approval, and then later we're revisiting conditions of approval. But so we did send in our letter. The applicant was here last month to talk about it a little bit with us. The conversation at the Board of Supervisors was a little more expansive than maybe what we had heard. If you want to jump ahead. So they had to construct the traffic signal, and primarily that road going in was for EVA to begin with, but it's supposed to be a full road owned by the county and operated as an open roadway. And again, that trigger was a 333 dwelling unit. And I think there's only, is it 4? I can't remember the total housing count, but it's close. So if we jump ahead, you can skip it. I just left it in case we want to talk about it. So they did make this request, and at the Board of Supervisors, they heard the conversation. It ended up becoming a conversation about, well, realistically, they could probably start doing the road. I think they talked about May and June for starting construction. They do the road. It would be a gravel gutter essentially on the sides of the road. The signal will probably, they think that the signal poles will be available by September, probably about the time they finish the road, and there might be a couple-week overlap before they install it. Our concern was they talked about a 2-year delay, but they had also said that they wanted the road to connect and that they would have a stop sign control intersection on Latrobe at that end. And that's crazy. They still very well may have a stop sign intersection for a few weeks until the lights are installed. But they did talk about it at the board of supervisors. There's a bond as developers, they have to supply a bond that if they don't meet these actions, the county would go in and take that bond, and then they would have the money, but the county would have to do it, and they'd have to build it. And the trouble is, when you talk about 2 years later, the cost of doing something 2 years later is significantly different from doing it yesterday. So our concern is always, it's like, well, these are entitlements that were promised, and the reason they're approved is because the county sees the value in having the developer provide those infrastructure items. And if you're just taking the money and going to sit on it for a few years, the money's not going to be worth what it was. So the board did approve it, and now we wait. So if they don't fulfill it within 2 years, the county will go and get the bond, take the money, and build the intersection. So that took a while to get through there, but they did hit all those highlights on that. So I'm going to go ahead and jump ahead. And then wanted to remind everybody, we keep talking about that road. It's not the road that has been proposed as a Beltway road, a connector from further south of Latrobe, closer to Wetzel Oviatt. And it would go around the back of Heritage and then connect to Sacramento County. And that's on the CIP, but there's no funding for it. There's no alignment, and there's nobody owns the entitlement. There's no right of way for it yet. Although this project, they would consider building out providing the entitlement for the right of way. That's a 20-year project. It might happen in 20 years. It might happen in 30 years. And if another development goes in, it could happen in 2 years. So, and one of the other things that they did mention was that because this connector road to Heritage 11, it does run through the Wynn property for Creekside, and Wynn has agreed to build the sidewalks when they start building their project. So gravel on the sides, and then as Wynn starts to build out Creekside, there'll be sidewalks. So
it'll be with
gravel. Yes. Did I miss? I know you were there. You were online, right, Linda? Did we miss anything on that? I had to listen to the recording in fits and starts. So, okay, so we can move ahead. The next item we talked about last month was this. I just left this in the Serrano Village D1 Lot D. I didn't check today, but it was still an incomplete application. But it's basically for the properties that they have right. Actually, Wilson will be extended behind us here and go towards Serrano Parkway. So, but there was no change in that. So I threw it in just to have it, and that's all the existing thing on that. And then, oh, this is closed now. So we had presentations about the stakeholder advisory team for the long range planning is looking to do the the design standards, and it's limited to multifamily and commercial. And despite promising I was not going to do anything else, I did volunteer for it because they weren't getting enough volunteers. I know Linda's volunteered for it. So I believe we're starting on March 5th, where we start taking our tour of Eldorado Hills. We look at architectural styles that exist, and then start providing feedback to the planning department about what's here. And then they've asked to have a meeting here with APAC. I don't know how we're going to do it. They talked about coming in May and in June. Vaguely aware that there might be some big things coming up in May and June. We might have to schedule a separate meeting to have them come and talk with us. So that's going forward. So, oh, are you there? Thank you, Larry. You can skip this. I just left it in case there's going to be some discussion on it. You can go ahead and, yeah, I left them all in. Yeah, okay. So architectural, and then we're going. And Gateway Eldorado. So there was a notice of preparation of a draft EAR. The scoping meeting that was on January 29th. The one thing that I took away from the scoping meeting was that they had said that the mixed use, they're proposing, taking their R&D property and providing some multifamily, commercial, retail primarily, and it's just north of the Tractor Supply store. And my takeaway was that they had said, well, they want the entitlements to do both the multifamily and the mixed use, but the commercial, but they anticipate it's primarily, it's going to be one or the other, depending on who's, they get their approval and then who they could have as a developer come in that wants to do a project. So, and again, the comments on the scoping meeting we're doing yesterday, I lacked the time to have any comments. And I think primarily when we do the draft EIR, that's really where our more important comments will come in. So anticipate that draft EIR will be coming soon.
Was that as part of the can you hear me? How about now? Ooh, I guess. I made the comment at the scoping meeting to make sure that they were going to do a full EIR that included environmental, traffic, and cultural. And they did say that. I was concerned that due to the parcel split that they did, they were coming in under the threshold for having to do an EIR, but they said they were going to do the full EIR. So that was good news for us.
So if you want to go ahead and jump on that, but so we have the notice of preparation. It's technically it's zone R&D right now, north of Tractor Supply. They have the 3 retail pads in the buildings they built south of Tractor Supply. And I believe that they said the conversation was that they had lined up a Starbucks for one of those, and Starbucks right now is closing, but they believe that they're turning around soon and they're going to start opening new locations. I don't know if they're closing the existing one. So, but there's a pizza franchise. I think it's Mountain Mike's, and Jersey Mike's sandwiches. The other retail in that little three retail pad area.
The developer said that he had a lease out for signature on that corner building that it's on. Who's on?
I didn't hear. I'm hearing me echo. So yeah. So there's a lease on the corner. You can't reveal it until it's signed. So you want to go ahead and jump on that. And we did the scoping meeting. Yeah. No, we've talked about it before, and the applicant's been here. This was concerned because they put their 2 warehouse buildings in there last year, and there was concern about the approval process and that. And basically, what the county said is that they're entitled to do those things by right, based on the R&D zoning and the business park planning. So they had entitlements. We thought maybe there should have been more discussion and more transparency about the potential traffic impacts and the impacts on the adjacent Heritage and Four Seasons and Blackstone neighborhoods. So, but
Now that the Creekside project is approved, the tolling agreement with Wynn should be have expired. So now they should be able to codify the director's letter into the standard. So we should at least know what R&D is now.
So I was going to say, we probably need to send another letter about that. Okay. So are there any questions about the Gateway project? And not online either. Okay, we can move ahead, and that's just sort of where it's at. Oh, did I miss one? My slides are gone. Yeah. Did I give you the wrong slide? No, I'm probably giving you the wrong. Hold on, why don't you go ahead and stop that while I'll grab mine. For some reason, I might have given you the old one. I'm back to driving, sorry guys. Let me hit that. Let me. Almost. Back to here. Let's see. Okay. Might have given you the wrong. Okay. Watch how fast we can jump through this. Okay, and then we talk about the Creekside was the next thing we're going to talk about, and that was approved. 700 plus housing units. Most of it is age restricted with 150, I think, 150 that are not age restricted, and they're challenged. And you know, we talked to them for years. I remember we met at Four Seasons a million years ago. Yeah, and so at the time, it was property in the business park. DST owned it, and they didn't think there was no absorption going to take place for any of that property. So they proposed with the Business Park Association de-annexing it from the Business Park Association, kept the zoning R&D, and then the intent was to find some way to do residential development there that would support employee, like in workforce housing. And there was some initial discussion about apartments, and none of it pencils out over the course of 8 years that we talked about it. And then when they talked to the school district, it ended up being that, you know, Latrobe did not want to build another school district. They are on well water in their campuses. They have to have water tested daily. And when it doesn't meet standards, they have to have water brought in for students. There was no interest. So the agreement they made there was to do the age restricted primarily and have not a big impact on Latrobe. So that's, as Supervisor Farrow described it tonight. Now, our initial exposure to it was that, hey, it's workforce housing, and it would be sort of more obtainable housing. We just lack here in El Dorado Hills, in pretty much everywhere here. So that morphed into what it was. We had a finding of conditional support based on, you know, the impacts that they were supposed to be mitigating, and we asked for some specific things. And like many things, it got approved, but you know, how many impacts were mitigated, we won't know. But the applicant was very generous in keeping us in the loop and having those discussions over the years. So that project, as Supervisor Farrow mentioned, was approved. And that's the layout there. The blue area in the top is the non-age restricted housing. The intent is to have the open space you see, and then also the dark green areas would be parks, but they did not seek to annex into the El Dorado Hills CSD. They'll be operating the parks as part of their HOA, and but it will be public parks still that anybody could go and use. That's the intent.
The road that goes down the middle is Royal Oak that we talked about.
Yeah, that alignment of Royal Oak goes right through the middle, and that's what the new road that Lennar will be putting in shortly. So, and then I had them out of order. So Gateway, we talked about Gateway specific plan. Here we go. So this is really why we're having the meeting tonight, because this project, I know you want to say something as we start. This the Costco project, we've been talking to them since 2019. It's a big deal. It's a big deal for El Dorado County. It's a big deal for El Dorado Hills. A lot of impact in terms of traffic volume, noise, air quality, the things we've been talking about, and we'll talk about again in a minute. But we want to take this time tonight because we're still a few weeks out. The comment period ends for the draft EIR on March 23rd. Is it like 7,000 pages with the appendices? I can never remember. It's a lot to go through. So I've been going through it. I know that people have been looking at it, but the opportunity tonight is to talk about when we do this, what we're looking at. And when there's a draft EIR, you know, if you don't like the project, you're welcome to say, I don't like the project. And you can tell them all the reasons you want, but this is about the environmental aspects of the project. And so when you submit those comments, they'll say, thank you for submitting those comments. We'll share that with the decision makers, which would be right now the Planning Commission, because there's no rezone involved here. But if it gets appealed to the Board of Supervisors, they get a chance, they get a crack at it too. But they will share those comments. But if it's in the draft EIR, that's really not the time to be talking about which you like or don't like. You should be talking about the environmental aspects and responding to what's in the document, and where you think maybe it's short, or maybe it's incomplete, or the analysis isn't accurate, or if you have questions about the numbers. So tonight we wanted to talk about that and how we respond to it, and then solicit anybody who wants to work on our review. We review primarily through email, collaboratively. We will share like Zoom sessions. We will beg Mr. Raslier to secure a room for us at Four Seasons in the clubhouse, and have meetings in person as well. So we're going to get going tonight and talk about that, and then just open it up to see residents' questions or comments about the environmental part, the EIR. So moving ahead, we know, we've all talked about where the site's at. It's on both sides of Silver Valley Parkway. Why they call it a south and a north side, I still struggle with. It's east and west. But to the north/east is the fuel station. They did reveal to us in their scoping meeting that they'd never had a discussion. Oh no, it was here. We said, well, what's going to happen with the rest of that property, because they own all of it. And so now they said, well, yeah, it's available for additional development. It just they won't be developing. They'll probably sell it to somebody. And the thing we always try to remind everybody is that property is owned commercial regional, which is big box. So there's potentially another commercial regional operator that might want to come in and grab that. So keep that in the back of mind as we move forward reviewing this, and as this moves through the entitlements process. There's a little closer look at the site. Tim, you wanted to say something about this as we dig in. Did you want to jump in now, or? Okay, so I'm just going to jump through these. Just these are the pictures we've seen. They're talking about a bi-level parking garage on the south property, just because the topography there is it doesn't allow them to. One, there's not enough space, and two, the topography is a challenge. It's going to be more challenging when they get out their equipment, because most of the Silver Valley interchange was constructed with dynamite. So that also would be a challenge. And there's just a closer look at the alignment and the parking structures they proposed it. And we just wanted to show again, here's the zoning, commercial regional plan development, and how the road intersects Carson Crossing to the, not Carson Crossing, Carson, what is the name? Hartsville. It's been a long day. So here's the long list of things that were just mentioned at the scoping meeting, and we just try to condense it down to just have it in a screen, and we can say, these are all environmental. These are the things we talked about. The traffic and circulation part of it is part of the environmental review. So these are the things we talked about. I was going to show some things that, as we start working the process, we look at the draft DAR, and then we start saying, oh, well, this is something we should probably respond to with a comment, a question, or pointing something out. Did you want to talk about this now? Because this is part of the.
Yeah, again, CEQA doesn't address things that we've seen on Nextdoor and other comments. If you are on, where's the project map again? But if you are overlooking that site, or if your backyard is on that site, CEQA doesn't care. It doesn't address it. It's not an appropriate comment for CEQA. They will just say, thank you for your comment, and it won't be addressed. Same thing if you're concerned that your property values are going to decline because a Costco project goes through and what you had a nice view and now you don't have it, or there's traffic impacts and you think your property values are going to go down. CEQA doesn't address it. It doesn't really care. Those are appropriate comments in your letters to the Planning Commission and your board, the Board of Supervisors. They will listen to you when you make those comments, but putting them in a CEQA document, it won't, they will just, the process doesn't address this because it's not an environmental issue. Again, other than maybe Linda, because she's ahead of us on a lot of things, I don't know if anyone has read the entire 500 pages yet. I have not. I'm in about page 125. And then, like many times, I have to go back and read the last 10 pages to see where I was and get back on track. And that could be an age thing. But if you don't have the time, and most people won't, take a look about the 60 pages starting in the beginning of the project. It's under the executive summary section, and it does give a good overview of the project. And of particular importance for anyone who's going through this, a document like this for the first time, take a look at the table, ES1, which is a summary of impacts and mitigation measures, because that is where you're going to get your argument if you don't like the project in general, but those are specific facts that you can read and say, no, they did not address all the impacts. They didn't think about this. So you can raise that, and that's an absolutely fair comment that will get addressed when they respond to the comments that go into the draft document. You may look at things like air quality or any number of water and say, no, the mitigations that are proposed are not sufficient to mitigate for the damage that is going to occur because of the project. That's the type of thing that will be addressed both at the Planning Commission and the Board of Supervisors. Basically, you got to stick to the facts, and you have to have factual arguments against it. If you think they haven't done enough studies or they've neglected something, now's the chance to raise it. And you want to raise it as soon as you can, because if it's raised to the Planning Commission level, then the Planning Commissioners can address it, and then it's in a record, and then it can go up to the Board of Supervisors for further discussion at that body. So I'm just saying, we have a lot of expertise here in the room. Linda can address something that she sent to us earlier to look at. It's sort of a cheat sheet, if you would, that's been prepared by, I think, some people at Open Meadows. That is, after we all read it, we agree it's an excellent source for someone to dig into a project like this, because it's tough to take 500 pages. You don't have to take 500 pages. Take the 200 pages on water or 300 pages on traffic, specialize in a project. There's a lot of people looking at it. Collectively, we can get it done. This is a team effort, and you know, you all have kids or grandkids and you're familiar with the team effort. We all got to make some little contribution, but when we do that collectively, it's a big contribution. We get it done, and it doesn't fall on just one or two people to do the whole thing. So that's my pep talk. You have my phone number, you have my email address. You need help with this, send me an email and I'll get back to you.
Tim, I agree with you 142%. The way I would have done it, I would have looked at the impacts first and then go back and say, okay, these are the impacts that I want to really address, and then go back to the 200 pages and then, you know, go back and forth and put, I think that's the exact way. And I think that's how you said to do it also. You know, that's the way to do it.
On here, sorry. Please do. No, talk with. With.
Sorry, I'll just hang up here. So, I totally agree. Actually, the whole point is you can do it any way that is most comfortable to you, because we're all different. The way I review things is going to be different than the way everybody else reviews them. So the whole point is just to be able to start digging into some of it. Maybe you have an interest in the hydrology and water section, right? Just focus on that, because there's probably people picking up another section. We do have a transportation committee, so already in place. So the transportation committee will be focusing definitely on the transportation aspects, but that doesn't mean other people shouldn't review it too. And if you want to reach out at all to APAC and say, hey, transportation committee, I have some questions, we can help you, right? Maybe we've covered it, maybe we haven't. We're happy to engage. If we schedule time together, let us know if you want to be involved with it too. And then you can be participating with it that way, you know? So, but either way, you can go from the bottom and go backwards, or start from the beginning. Just doing something is going to be helpful, because you have a different vision and view than any of the rest of us do.
There are some hands up right now, but we'll do the room first. But I did want to show what, as Tim was describing it, right, and as I think John was saying, is that when we get to these items, and there's our list again, so when you look at the impacts and what they say the impacts are and what the potential mitigations are, so you know, significant and unavoidable is the vehicle miles traveled, which is the CEQA standard. But in our county, we also have a level of service that's codified in our general plan that you know, you can't be in the community region like El Dorado Hills, you can't be more than level of service E. So horrible is acceptable, failing is not. That's generally what it is. It doesn't mean we have to like it, But that's what they're talking about in the document. They're saying, well, we meet the standard, we're below F. So when we look at these things, so we should talk about, how they're describing them, if we think that they're accurate, if we have questions about them, if maybe there's some things they're missing, or some things we have questions about how they determined it in terms of how they did the review. So like on the transportation, we're talking about the VMT, which is like a big thing in this draft EIR. They sort of short sight the level of service part of it, which is part of our general plan. The school site safety for the circulation and the pedestrian, it's a big deal too. So, their response was that, their analysis was that, well, the trucks and stuff, the consumers probably won't be going around there. And that's their study. So we should probably be challenging that in terms of, okay, well, you say that, but what if? What if that's not right? We think it's not right. How do you still mitigate? So, air quality and public health, it's a big topic with the school right there, the residence is right there, fuel vapors, the sensitive receptors in the school age kids and just the public. They have talked about they're using a certain vapor recovery system for the fumes at the fueling station. Well, there's also fumes for the trucks delivering and cars idling and these things. So, okay, they've addressed it and they say that the findings were less than significant. So then the challenge for us to say, well, wait a minute. That's what you say, but is that accurate? So the other thing is, there's an equally powerful impact from construction time when they have equipment out there grading or dynamiting or whatever they do. But so all those things, they have it say, oh, well, we're going to have the equipment will meet standards because they'll have these emission controls on them. Well, that's fine, but the reality is sometimes they don't. So,
Asbestos, it's all over the county. And so you see they're supposed to spray water and keep the asbestos and the dirt and dust down. But what if you see, well, they're not. Well, county has to think 2 air quality management inspectors for the entire county. If they're up in South Lake Tahoe doing something, they're not going to be able to get down to El Dorado Hills to cite the developer. So, I mean, they sounds nice to have, they have all these things, but they actually will at the time.
Yeah, that's the thing we find with most projects is that most of the projects always have a monitoring and mitigation program, but how they're going to monitor how they're doing these things. The reality is that it's pretty much it falls to the public to be a reporting agent. And you know what? That's really, I mean, it's a good tool for us to have available to us, but that's not our job. And the county is approving these projects and conditioning them based on the standards that we're all describing in this document. And so, yeah, so even when something's operating, like if it's a residential development and you're putting neighbors, you're pitting neighbors against neighbors, say, oh, I got to report this because they're not doing X, or that, that's not our job. Our job should be say, okay, well, this is approved. Welcome, neighbor. Hope that you guys are doing everything you're supposed to be doing. Is somebody looking at this? So it's nice to have the opportunity to be able to report it, but the reality is that the monitoring should be more stringent and it should be the county monitoring with input from the public. So, and then, the other thing that we're looking at is sample concerns, noise, the construction noise when they're developing, and then the operational noise when deliveries, the dark of night till early in the next morning. What is that doing to primarily at nighttime? What's it doing for the residents that are adjacent? And during the day, the school is right there. Obviously, there's a highway there. There's a noise impact existing, but what is this noise doing? Is how much is it augmenting it? Every noise study we always see, the numbers are unbelievably low. And they're talking about, they're within the county daytime 55 decibel and the nighttime 45 decibel standards for the existing sensitive receptors. But, we have that talk about the quick whack that went in the Bass Lake area. And I can hear the quick whack and I'm a little bit farther away. So, and we had a long discussion. I had a call with the developer and they talked about all the nifty baffles and noise mitigation tools they have. It's still pretty high. So, but they're saying it meets the county standards. So how do we respond to that? So that's where and then the fire, and the fire actually, it is a pretty lengthy document, the fire plan for this project. So is it 200? Yeah. So I'm trying to remember. So just because it's lengthy, that's good, but we want to make sure what's in there is accurate and correct and is going to help the community and help the developer too, right? When the project's operating. So we just have to look at these things and go, okay, I'm not an evacuation modeling expert, but does this sound right? Should we question it? How do we question it? It has to be based off of what they have in there and what we can develop as a response in terms of, hey, can you explain this more? You should explain this more.
John, I have a question for Linda. You had a very good plan on how to look at this particular project and how people can respond to it. What have you done to get it out to the community? Have you put that plan out there?
So just so, because I sent it to you, it's actually not my plan. It was put together by the group from Oak Meadows that's doing a lot of the planning. And I happened to come across the document and I was like, this is awesome. I sent it to you guys so that you would have visibility. So that's not something I'm personally socializing. I will incorporate, I did get approval to incorporate some of it into kind of future general project review stuff. But for Costco itself, I haven't. I can certainly see if anybody wants that to go out further. To me, I think because the Oak Meadow community had started it, if they want to distribute it more, I would leave it to them. But if they want to say, hey, you guys can use it, then.
Because I feel that community involvement is what's going to push this. And if your plan, you change the name on, change 2 words on it and you can use it. It should be.
Copyright law, John.
There's
Are
a
you Mark?
there's a lawyer sitting right here, and there's a lawyer right there.
That's all right. So
Are you
what
the,
I'm.
wait, hold on.
Yeah.
Are you the author? Okay.
Oh,
I thought he did a great job on the document. And
yeah.
and I
We
told
all
you
agree
that.
on that.
Yeah, totally appreciate it. So.
I'm no expert in any of this.
Yeah.
Just a concerned resident.
Right.
Yeah, but the thing is, it should be on the internet, it should be on social media so that people know there's a plan and an easier way to deal with this.
That was the goal. My wife and I started putting this together and said, how can we not only understand this ourselves, but then empower people to comment and do so in a way that's going to get the results they're looking for. So if you have concerns, if you have questions, what carries the most weight when you are commenting via CEQA and a DEIR and getting the attention of the Planning Commission and the supervisors? And we tried to distill that down in this document. Literally just shared it this afternoon and you found it. So, but
out.
would like to get it out more, but I also want feedback and make sure that it's correct. I've already had some challenges on things like the revenue proceeds and the calculations there. I don't know, but we will update them as needed.
Yeah, I would say on that, that's a question we have on every project, and there's never a consistent answer. So if it hits the general fund, it's the general fund. It goes where they determine it goes. But yeah, usually with a project that has a development agreement, that's always an ask. Hey, you're making the impact here, that those impact dollars should be staying here. There's no development agreement in this one, so it's general fund money. So, but no, that was a great document, and I was glad Linda was able to share it with us. It's like,
So maybe what we can do is I can let these guys come back to me and say if there's something else and I can bring it back, but then do you have a problem with us socializing it? Because we could put it on the APAC website, specific for Costco right now. And then I can refine it for going forward for, general reviews. Here's
And I
kind
can
of a
work with you
template.
on that too. Absolutely. I'd be happy to help with that. But I did want to, because this is my first kind of tackling something like this, and I leveraged things like AI and other research items to be able to go through a 600-page document and try to surface what was most important. But I think it's a good way to build the framework, and then and I'm happy to update it with better information as I get that and as we have discussions.
Right. And that's exactly how I saw it, like a framework. So I thought it was really easy to read through, and so.
Organizing is like the hardest thing to begin with, right?
You should have seen how many pages it was before we
No,
showed.
but the thing is, it should be on just not our website. It should be on all the social media that we can put it on. And it's very simple. All you could say is read the impact study and then go back and look at the 200 pages and then pick what area you want to work with. Very, very simple. You don't have to get into the weeds with this, but it's got to be out there for the community to see so that you can get impact. Just to put it on APAC is, how many people, although I know a lot of people read APAC, not everybody does. I'm not being facetious.
We'll figure out a method of
Yeah.
distribution. I was just thinking on the website as a central source, because it would be, if we put it out the way it is now, it is specific to Costco. And then it can be shared through social media that way for
Yeah,
download.
and to be clear, it's not our document, so anything you want to
Correct.
do with it, if
Yeah.
we can help, if we're in the way, tell us we're in the way.
Yeah,
I'm just looking for more information to make sure it's accurate.
yeah,
And that it's helpful.
yeah.
It's
I
definitely
thought it was-
helpful.
I thought it was a great layout and summary, so.
One thing you did mention though was AI. Just to sort of figure out, my interest is fire and fire evacuation stuff, 200 pages. So chat, take a look. How does this document, 500 pages, run it through, make sure you, get your question accurately asked,
Right.
and see what it comes out. And it actually came back on fire impact, and said, okay, the deer looks good on all required aspects for this, but have you thought about this? And what about that? That method gives you a way to start maybe processing, and it does come up with things that the fire chief and I looked at it together, said, oh, that's something we maybe have to look at a little bit more, just so we have an understanding. I found it a challenging thing, and I don't, to me, it could take over the world. But if you use it correctly, it can really, I think, help you focus things, because it's hard to focus on a 500-page document and get everything. Not one person can, but if you run a specific section through, it will help formulate different ideas and things that you can address when you put in your notes and comments in your reports.
It's good for organizing.
Saying is, let's say, for example, somebody took a look at the impact of trucks. If we went to chat AI and said, give us some input about trucks and Costco, what the impact would be, you would get something. It would probably get a 38-page, but maybe not. I mean, that's a great way to go, to use AI.
Well,
That's
okay.
great.
However,
Yes.
yeah.
However,
Yeah, you gotta be
big
careful.
however, it's still learning, and it's only as good as the information that goes into it and how it's being trained.
Agreed.
And it doesn't replace lived experience. So that's the critical part for when we live here. So for example, Clarksville Crossing Road, I didn't realize they were going to actually be directing most all of the traffic onto Clarksville Crossing, a 2-lane road, and having them turn left if they're coming from Silva Valley into the driveways to get into the parking lot. So that means they're coming across traffic on a 2-lane road. So that isn't, to me, handled very much. They're talking about VMT, but if you think about those trips, it's one thing to think about it on Silva Valley. It's another thing to think about it on Clarksville Crossing. So consider that. And then, of course, what isn't truly identified is the whole country club extension, where they're relying on that in the future. And that's been a paper road for 20, 30 years, right? So we don't have a commitment from the county, and but when I say the county, that means that we, the taxpayers, would be paying for that road, not Costco, unless there's negotiations on it, right? Same thing with White Rock Road from Latrobe up to
Well,
where Silva Valley, it turns into Silva Valley, right?
the interchange, yeah.
That's 2-lane road too. So if you have people from Heritage and that area coming up, they're on a 2-lane road that way until they get onto the interchange. So all of that has impact. Those are the things that we should be highlighting, we should be calling out, and we can question as part of what's being produced. So.
And I'm addressing this as a planning commissioner. I can't speak for the other 4 commissioners, but I can say that it's very critical for you to question what's on this draft. Just because it says something is less than significant does not necessarily mean it's less than significant. If it doesn't pass the sniff test, call it out. Because by the time it hits the commission, we're going to be dealing with that 500 pages plus another 1,000 pages of other documents. Understand who's also developed this EIR, the draft. The county does not have internal staff capable, so we have to go out there and hire outside consultants. And and it's the same group of outside consultants that seem to be processed on a regular basis from one project to another. Do they do a good job? Yeah, I think they certainly do a good job. But they also, I've seen, particularly in town and country, we're extremely biased on a lot of their conclusions. I mean, the kind of bias they showed toward APAC's comments, for example, in the final was atrocious. And so it's very important that you take nothing at face value. You have to understand the people who are actually developing the plan may have also other interests, long-term interests, with the developer community also that may go well beyond El Dorado County. I'm not saying that there's collusion by any means, because I think you are capable, honest, sincere people. But we have to also question that this is our future that we're talking about. And for community groups, by the way, inundate the commissioners with information on a regular basis. Trust me, just volumes of emails gets our attention. So, and then understand the EIR is still only one segment. We're going to have to also deal with the issues of compatibility with the general plan. We have all these other documents in terms of public financing and everything else that all gets jammed down our throats at the same time. And about 2 weeks to try to evaluate that. And at this stage, for this particular project, the commission is the deciding party. And we also know that there will be undoubtedly on this one an appeal. So eventually it will go to the supervisors.
Yeah, whether you guys decide the entitlements are appropriate or you did choose to reject them, somebody's going to appeal something.
Yes.
So
by all means, just because you have an expert claiming something that is less than significant, if it doesn't pass a basic sniff test, challenge it and be upfront about it, because that's what I want to see.
all right. Thanks, Bob.
So I actually, he made me think of something. Here's some ideas for things. In regards to, he brought up the county ordinances and the general plan. So actually, there was one comment in the Oak Meadows thing that I provided, one of the recent policies specific to fire evacuation routes. And with the new safety element update, there's supposed to be 2 options that can carry full volume. And so if we're looking at evacuations, I'm not convinced that that's been implemented in the studies. I haven't looked at the fire portion of the EIR or the draft, but something like that, that's where you relate it to the policy and say, did they actually accommodate this? If we had a fire and everybody had to get on that roadway, do we have two options, right? At full volume. And that was best case. So in that case, that doesn't align with the general plan. Yeah, yeah. So definitely to your point, review the draft EIR, question the stuff that's in there, because it can be a little marketing sometimes. But then also, maybe as a secondary, if you're not familiar with the general plan, go to portions of the general plan and say, hey, does it speak to things like this, right? And again, with APAC, we're here to help with that because a lot of us know the different elements and some of the things that are in it. And so we can help to address some of those questions too.
Yeah, and so we're getting a little late. So I did want to open up the room because the goal tonight was to have people ask questions about this. And then we have 3 people with their hands up and they've been waiting patiently, but we do work the room first, sorry. So the only other thing I was going to point out was that, so we talked about in those little demo sample concern items, we talked about these things. And so when we come back, we look at 2 or 3 things. So we say, okay, well then VMT, why is 21,000 vehicle miles traveled significant and unavoidable, but health and air quality impacts are less than significant? We have to ask questions like that. So there's a bunch of examples, when you look at it, and as Bob described it, you can look at it and say, I don't know, why, you don't have to be a confrontational, but you can say, why? Can you prove this? And that's where we have to start. So let's go
Say
around.
one other thing real quick.
Sure.
I thought of the other thing. So the way when we talk to each other, I hadn't thought about the fact they might use dynamite. And so I'm going to go back to the document and see if they talk about dynamite and explosions. So that's where sharing information and ideas and just having discussion is super helpful. So.
All right. So in the room, would anybody like to come up and use a microphone if they have questions or comments about anything we talked about? Wow, so we can come back to it. There's 3 people on waiting online. Yeah, so yeah, we want you back next month because we want the input too as we try to ball this thing up and get our response in as well. And the thing I will say as I open it up to people online, you can provide comments to us, and if you want us to incorporate them as part of our comments, that's great. Thank you for helping. But you also get to submit your own. So it's probably more important that decision makers and people looking at the analysis at the Planning Commission, that they hear it more than once if it's significant. So I'm going to go right now. I'm going to ask, Amy's been waiting forever. Amy, you should be able to talk.
Hi, yes. Thank you so much for this discussion tonight. This has been very productive and informative. I just want to encourage everyone to attend the meeting on the 25th at the CSD in Cameron Park. We had the meeting at Oak Meadow and it was extremely helpful. You get the opportunity to walk around the room and talk to the quote unquote environmental experts that created the report. And there are a lot of flaws in the study. Like for example, they used a site receptor to study air quality in South Sacramento, which has completely different topography than El Dorado Hills. Just one example. And there are many, many things. Just pay attention, ask as many questions as you can, and listen to everyone else's questions and answers. And you'll pick up on a lot of different things to comment on. So I highly encourage everyone to attend the next meeting. I just wanted to share that piece of information, and I will be submitting many comments to the county as well as to APAC. So thank you.
All right, thank you, Amy. We appreciate you've been involved for a long time, so we really appreciate it. Okay, next I see the other twice. There you go, Rich. You should be able to unmute.
I think.
Can you hear me?
Oh, no, you know what? It was Ivan that moved. Sorry. So go right ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Very good. Hey, there was a slide that was presented for quite a while on screen there that was an aerial view of the development. Can you go back to that?
That one?
Thank you, right there. I know recently Village A14 for Serrano was approved, and I think Beer Camp is just starting grading that area. Where
Right.
is that on this slide relative to the Costco development?
Um, you know what? This is probably a bad overlay because it has, yeah. So basically, I have a mouse somewhere, and nobody in the room is going to see it. So this is supposed to be the gate, I
Ah,
believe, that's going to be constructed. Um, and Country Club will kind of take this alignment along, sort of along Tong, come up to the north, and right around the other side of it. But they're grading all up and around here right now. And A14 was approved several years ago, and they just have been dragging their feet on it, but they're moving on it now. And that was my concern because that gate is supposed to hit the Country Club extension, but if they're not extending Country Club, you're going to have just a dead end with maybe some metal gate there that isn't actually. There might be an EVA, maybe. I'm not certain on that, but we had a little discussion before we started tonight that we said, we had always assumed that Country Club just had even that stub out where it goes around the back of their project. Even if it only came to the fuel station, that provides an opportunity. That's probably where a better spot for a traffic signal, because I know that Parker Development has talked about providing their property just to the north of this, that's adjacent to Oak Meadow, has a couple acres as a potential drop-off lot, and you'd have access to a road with a traffic signal, which the school does not have now. And that's a madhouse picking up and dropping off. It backs up into the interchange in the afternoons. Um, so, I mean, there's an opportunity for something to happen there. I would think that that'd be something we would ask for. That, hey, can't you do this? But they were very point blank saying that that was not part of their project at their scoping meeting. But I think if we ask consistently, there's an opportunity if this thing gets approved that's a genuine improvement versus what's not being proposed right now. So, but because this is at the Planning Commission, there's no development agreement. That's a tough ask. But if we ask early and often, there's an opportunity. But I thanks for pointing that out to us tonight. That that construction's going on right now for Village A14.
and to that end, has there been any comment from Bill Parker or Kirk Bone about the Costco development?
I don't think they weigh in on other projects
Uh-huh.
typically, but maybe that's an opportunity, unless there's an impact on them. Yeah. So
Right.
yeah,
Right.
but I have not heard that. We can ask.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. So, and now Ivan, I apologize. You should be able to, if I can get my mouse over there. There you
Oh,
go.
all right. Thank you. Yeah, no worries. Just a few things. I just wanted to talk about the AI thing. It can be really helpful for sure, but we got to be careful because it hallucinates, it gets things wrong sometimes, and it also might not tell us everything that we could know. So finding professionals would be really great as well, like actual people. And I have some questions because I know during the scoping process, during the public comments for the NOP, I think it was called, I can't remember. I mentioned, and I'm sure many of us mentioned that there were 4 schools that would be affected by this. And I looked
Yes.
through the DEIR, and in their section on environmental setting, 3.13.3, I think. Yeah, it says it doesn't mention Rolling Hills Middle or Silver Valley Elementary, and we know that Rolling Hills is just across the. And I'll just read what they say here. Just the one sentence says, the nearest public schools are Oak Meadow Elementary School, north of the project site, and Oak Ridge High School, located at 1120 Harvard Way, El Dorado Hills. And it doesn't mention the other 2 schools. So I don't know if they were supposed to count that in or what happened, but I also want to volunteer when it comes with the draft environmental impact report and help out with that with y'all. So yeah, I'm just wondering about these things. All right, thank you.
Well, thanks, Ivan.
Mhm.
So there are no more hands up online, and there's none in the room. The thing about this is that if you want to volunteer and you walk up to me tonight before I leave and say I want to volunteer, when I get to my vehicle, I'm probably going to forget because it's it's the dash. So we would ask you, we have an email on our website. It's info@edhapac.org. But also on our agenda, each of our officers has their email address on there at the top. So if you're comfortable talking to one of the officers, If I'm a jerk and you want to talk to somebody else, that's a good plan. But the info one will come and we can distribute it to everybody. And we're going to start, probably in the next week, we got to start organizing because we have a few weeks to get all these things prepared, reviewed, and how we're going to do it. And I will second what Ivan had shared about the AI stuff. My favorite thing was I was coding all day today, and I know guys who code and they'll go in and they'll ask an AI, hey, what about how do I do this, or what can I? And they get an answer and they'll come back and say, hey, that didn't work, and then the AI will say, you're right, exactly right, that didn't work. We got this wrong. Here's the real answer. And then you do that about 14 times, and then you get something that might work. So it's great for organizing. It's really good for organizing. If you have questions, you have points, and you put them in, you say, hey, what's a good way to organize this so that I'm not missing any of these? That's a very valuable tool for that. So if you have a good way of using it, please use it, and then just make sure you review it before you turn it in, because it might, you might be saying we drive on the wrong side of the road or something silly like that. So are there any more questions about this or the process for what we anticipate next month? Is probably we're going to get some sort of document ready and have it talk about it at our meeting, and we might amend it based off of feedback we get at the meeting, but then we got to get it in within a couple of weeks. So March 11th is our next meeting. The document has to be in by the 23rd. So there are no questions about that. Okay, thank you, Ruth, for being patient with our stuff. And then let me get out of Costco. So, and then, I wanted to talk about, when we talked about we're talking about the environmental in this document. These are the comments that we've been having for years, and these are comments, and these are good questions, but they're not germane to the environmental document. Why are they putting it so close to the other Costco and Folsom? Well, people say there aren't any that are that close. Yeah, there are, and there are in California. San Diego has several. Fresno has several. Oh, Roseville and Roseville. The other thing I want to remind everybody is that when they built the Costco in Loomis, Sierra College, the road there, that's the city of Rockland road that they built and maintained and expanded capacity for. And then the new Costco went in, and Loomis, directly from that road, Rockland had a problem with that. And so they litigated and they sued each other, both cities, for several years. And I think it was like 8 years. Costco paid a lot of money to the city of Rockland. So keep that in the back of your mind as we go through this. But yeah, why is it that property? And we've talked about this before. It's the only Class A intersection in the county still. It's the newest intersection, interchange, not intersection. And the property is zoned for exactly what they're proposing. Whether we like that or not, it's what it is. So typically we have challenges when people propose projects and they want to rezone something. And we always have a problem with the rezone. This one is consistent with how it's zoned. And, and you want to put your big box infrastructure up by a highway, because then you're not having people drive through neighborhoods and communities to get to it. It's a little bit better than putting it, but this is, and now they own the property. So there are a lot of questions like that, the things that Costco doesn't, the Costco's have multi-level parking. Well, my friend lives in the Bronx, and they're all multi-level parking. And in Mexico, and I think in Asia as well. So these are questions that get asked a lot, and they're good questions. And maybe there's some points to be made when it comes time for approval, but it's not part of the environmental review. So with that, we're done with that topic tonight, I promise. Public meeting comments. If you have comments and you can't be here, if you want to email them in, you can do that as long as you send them to us by a Monday. So if there are questions we can ask, like a guest, an applicant, so they can have the question ready for them so that we can answer it and have it ready at the meeting, that'd be great. And I did want to do this, and I was going to bring it up during public comment at the beginning. So I don't know how many people here know. So at the El Dorado Hills CSD, their principal planner, Jeff Kiernan, has been a regular APAC attendee, and he doesn't even live in El Dorado Hills. He's just here, and he's very vigilant about attending our meetings. Well, Jeff has accepted a position with the city of West Sacramento, which is not good for El Dorado Hills, but it's good for Jeff. And Jeff did send me a message today. He asked me to provide this to our attendees, and hopefully we're recording. It's been a pleasure attending APAC meetings for the last several years. Everyone there is passionate about their community, and I encourage continued involvement. The local community maybe can't stop all development, but can certainly shape what it looks like. And so I am going to miss seeing Jeff multiple times a month, And when my daughter was an intern at the CSD, I was one of her bosses, and he still checks in about how she's doing in college, and she graduates in June. But Jeff is a consistent presence here, even if it's not pertaining to the CSD. He's looking at what the planning impacts could be. So it was a valuable thing to have Jeff here with the CSD. And so we appreciate his attendance here, and we wish him the best of luck in West Sacramento. And so with that, our next meeting is March 11th, 6:30 p.m. back here in this room. Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Chief, and thank you. We appreciate the fire department helping us do this. I mean, again, it is a lot of community support that they provide for us. So with that, if there's nothing to go back to, are we adjourned? Take the rest of the night off.